And we're noticing that, you know, when anybody makes any changes, in my experience, when a client makes changes, they normally have to visit here first. There's got to be a nothing first before there's a something. Because they're full of everything. They're full of their world. Their world's full of what they know and the presuppositions and the limiting beliefs. And it's all full up. Their knowledge is the limit of how they perceive life. So to get something other than that, they normally have to go somewhere else outside of that. When they've gone outside of that, they're going to go into here, this place here. Lots of different names for this. I mean, if you think about all of the religions in the world, they have a name for that place, don't they? Almost every single one. In Hawaii, it's the Io. You would visit the Io. Hindus, what is it? Akashak? Akashak? Yeah. So you could say heaven as well. It's a possibility, another possibility. So it's a place that we don't know in a way, because there's nothing to know there. There's a label for it, but actually we don't know what's there. It's the not of everything else. So that's where we want, you know, when I'm working with my clients, I'm always thinking, you know, when are we going to get them there? How are we going to get them there? When are we going to get them through that barrier into a place that's more expansive, where there's possibilities and they can think. And in that thinking, they can bring forth that evolutionary next thought for themselves, or that evolutionary next download that's coming to them. And you've seen that with a few of us, haven't you? I mean, you guys did really well with... on the first day, we looked at the hierarchy of ideas, and we're saying, look, there's a place outside language, and a couple of you jumped to there, but it's a bit more like, a bit more like that kind of experience, like, or there's nothing there, Now yesterday, a lot of you really went into that space. Alice in Wonderland with Wesley, and Natalie, was that the day before? Day before that, wasn't it? Natalie just totally went into that hierarchy of ideas working with you. She went totally outside of language, and she stayed there for hours. In fact, the rest of the day she stayed there. And she said that was one of the most remarkable experiences she's ever had in her life. So in terms of our languaging, when we get to the actual language that we know, in this room it's be English, or it might be French, or whatever language, other languages you have. When we get to that point, there's a whole bunch of other things which have already occurred in terms of experience that's occurred before we get to these labels. And the labels are important because they wrap everything up. They're like the glue. The language that we use is the glue of our existences. So that's why language is important, but it isn't actually the real thing. Now, we kind of touched on that on the practitioner course, didn't we? About language, and it's not really real. It's a system that we use to try and somehow or other give a notion of our experience, which is happening here. And what the language does, the communication does, it just wraps it up in a nice package and gives us an idea of what the experience might be. So where we're going with the master practitioner element of this is to say that when we look at the pictures, sounds, feelings of the VACOG, in other words, well, what's that made of as well? What's behind all that? In other words, what's reality made up of the microcosm and the macrocosm, if you like? And we're looking at space, time, energy, and matter. That's what really reality is made up of. What we call reality: space, time, energy, and matter, or STEM, as I called it. So what we can look to do, especially with the quantum linguistics, is challenge space, time, energy, and matter to see if we can make a breakthrough with people.